And this is something I beat myself up about now, is that I struggle to let myself feel fantastic because I feel like I'm going to lose it all the time. And that day I felt fantastic and I lost everything. Being in our little family bubble, and that was safe. And that safe space, I think, made me complacent as a boy and understanding my place in the world. There, and I got really badly bullied when I was 13. Yeah, I was scoring tries, I was loving it. Last game of the season that we didn't need to play, I stepped one way and a guy stepped straight through my left leg, triple open spiral fracture and dislocation, and the skin was about to breach. I look back at that day a lot. My dad got diagnosed with cancer. He collapsed by my mum's bedside while she was in intensive care to Wales, and I lived with Dad for about seven months as he battled AML, and the cancer won, unfortunately. And I came back to Sussex, and it was the quiet moment where people would stop saying, "I'm sorry for you're lost," that I struggled. She was brutally honest and said, "I think I've got to go too." And then it became very, very quiet. Probably the quietest it's ever been. I was just left with me and my thoughts, and none of them were positive. And when I made some stupid decisions to try and stop everything, it wasn't because I didn't know it would be all right. It's because I didn't want to get to the top of the mountain and still feel utterly, utterly worthless. I just got to a point where I didn't want to keep going, knowing full well that even when it's better, I'm going to hate myself. I had a couple of goes at not moving forward. And I was like, yeah, I tried to end it all because I'm a worthless piece of shit. I got to the limit. I'd run out of water. I'd run out of food. Fucking headphones had died. And I was left, and there's this bit running down Eastbourne Bypass. Just, I don't know where it came from, but I want to keep going.
I'm on a mission to help the world to see success differently. We're sharing the stories of our guests. I hope to inspire those that listen. This is the Different Hats podcast, produced by H2 Productions. I hope you can join us on this journey.
Need a new van? Why not pop down to Rivervale in Brighton? Explore our range of new and used vans, lovingly prepared and ready to work just as hard as you do. Rivervale, making motoring manageable.
Okay, welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm here in well, this is your place really, isn't it?
My house.
I'm in your house.
Welcome to my house. Nice to have you here.
Mate, listen, I'm delighted. It's been great, obviously, moving here and doing the podcast from here. It's like a dream for me, right? This is what I had in my mind. I remember when I first walked in, I was like, yeah, this is what it looks like. This is what a podcast studio looks like.
That's my space. Yeah, nice.
And I'm so excited. It's been great, obviously, working with you on this series, and we've got some big plans for the future. So
it's a pleasure to have you. I like what we're doing.
Yeah, mate, it's a good time. So look, it's going to be great to share your story today, right? And,
well, we'll see, yeah.
Mate, it was strange because obviously we and you met actually on that the networking event, didn't we, with Ellie Howe that she put on?
The Men's Mental Health Day.
Yeah. Where I was a speaker that day, and then but you know it was a really open forum, wasn't it? And we sort of shared, and you shared your story then, and ever since, obviously we connected after that a lot more, and hence why I'm here and working together. But yeah, just really keen to share your story and learnings from some stuff. So, but as always, mate, look, we're going to kick off. We're going to do the check-in, right? So, Matt Cheney, you all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah. I think it was a slow start, sort of getting out of the Christmas period and the sluggishness of that. I think I use my previous states as a reference point. Yeah, I'm all right. The stresses aren't gone; they're all still there, but I'm up for the fight. I think is probably the way I look at things these days.
Love that. And it's hard, it's always there's that thing of after the festive season, we're straight back in, and but overall, what's the overview for this year? However you look at, how you entered the year going?
Yeah, this year, my word for this year is invest. Okay. I think last year and a little bit the year before, I had the approach of go through doors that open for you. Like if there's something not new, but an opportunity or something you haven't done, don't say no, go through, see what happens, come out. This year, changing tact a little bit, and it's invest in what I have. Invest in growing what I can, as opposed to looking for the next shiny object. I think that's too easy, definitely in my experience, like the next bit of tech, the next opportunity, the next trip, the next, when I get here, I'll feel this. Whereas this year, I'm just going to invest in me, my relationships, grow what I have already met, connected with and engaged with, and see where that leads me, as opposed to quick, more people, more things.
Oh, I love that. I really resonate with that. I think I'm probably in a similar space to you with that. I think that, listen, the podcast is called Different Hats under the banner that I've done a million different things, right? Yeah. And I think last year was similar for me, just I've always been a yes man, so always going, yeah, another opportunity. Wow, that's another opportunity. And actually, it's probably held me in good stead to now, right? Like, it's created some amazing opportunities, and I'm doing this now, which I wouldn't have probably done had I not said yes to the previous opportunity. So yeah. I do think that there's something in that, but you do get to a point where you find, I don't know if you felt like, where you feel like you're constantly looking for something where actually just, wow, I'm doing okay where I am right now. And the more I focus on, just laser focus on where I am right now, that might be a better route. Possibly.
Yeah, but I think leaning into the different hats thing is like, we're not one thing at any one moment. So if we are wearing 5 or 6 different hats, but everyone in those hats are new recruits, then you're never going to get any sort of like excellent, or not excellency, just competency. I think of it as like a little army. Yeah. If everyone's just a private, then we've got no sergeants, no lieutenants, no generals, and you just end up constantly on a hamster wheel of feeling like you're not doing enough in any one of these things because you're not giving them the time to improve. Yeah. Constantly spinning the wheels.
Because I'm with you, because it's almost like that. I feel like, and not based on achievement, because my whole thing is success, not based on that. But I felt like I've been doing a lot of things okay, and I think for me that what happened was the clarity I got in the mission and where I'm going. Actually, now if it aligns with this, great, and it's going to get me there. I was talking to Sam Garrity, who obviously we recorded a podcast with him recently. And I was talking with him, we caught up yesterday, and he was saying that just to get laser focused on something. And then when something comes in, if it's a shiny new object, but it gets me to the mission, then brilliant, that can come in. So you can still say yes to opportunities, right? But you've got that clarity of where I think you're going.
And there's the under end of that scale as well, where like, if you just put hard lines in and go, oh, I don't do that. If the world changes around you and you still don't do that, then like I wouldn't have the career I have now if I stuck to my guns when I started and I was like, I'm going to edit and mix TV and film. I would, I know people in that career now that have won Emmys that are struggling for work. If I didn't keep my head up and I didn't see where things were moving and I didn't take time to learn new skills, I would be stuck. So I think there's this, and that's where we sit on that grey scale, isn't it, of one to the other, of like invest, work hard, but also be prepared to change. Yeah, and that's a large part of what I've had to learn about my own personality as well.
And I guess that's balance, right, as well, like for everything in life, whether it be business or opportunities or whatever. But like I said, even the work on yourself, like finding that balance between what you are. Yeah, I love that.
Are you optimizing yourself? Or are you being selfish?
Yeah.
Are they one and the same? Are they different? And it's all perspective and point of view, right?
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? Because like that, and especially that when you start doing that work on yourself, and maybe for the first time probably ever in my life, putting some boundaries in place. Like when you do sort of start saying, no, I don't do this, or I'm just in this area. Like, by saying no doesn't mean you're being selfish, right? I think protecting yourself to a degree and putting boundaries is a I don't know, how are you with that?
I think for me, if I'm saying no to something or I have an opinion on something, I need to justify it to myself and no one else. So if I'm saying no, then I need to just be comfortable with whatever that is. Because some people might say, well, you should be doing this. Yeah, but I can't because, and then you have to justify yourself. And then you sort of, if you're justifying yourself to people all the time, then you still feel that overwhelm of not being good enough, right?
Yeah. No, it's a balance. It's a fine line. And it's life, right?
It's a juggling act. Yeah, it's great fun.
Okay, well, look, you've heard this many times. Been recording this. So the big question, right? Success. What does it mean to you when I say it? What's success to you? How do you define it?
It's definitely changed a lot over the years. I think younger Matt Cheney, definitely, the attainment of wealth, success and power and all that. I think now I have come to the conclusion that success is being content of where you are at, but where you are going for me. So, mindfulness and things like that of be present. I feel successful when I acknowledge the things I have, but I also feel successful knowing I can improve and change, and that adventure ahead is the perspective I didn't have for a while of these things are going to be hard, these things are going to be challenges, but I get to do them is something that we've heard in this podcast before, right? I get to do this. It's keeping that mindset. So success for me is being able to get to do things whilst enjoying what I have and being grateful for it.
And how do you get that balance? Because I agree. There was a couple of things that come out, and what I've learned even from since the 100th episode and the framework I've put together, and then the podcast that you've been recording with me and how long we've been going. I'm like, there is that balance between, because what come out of the 100th episode was the ongoing pursuit of fulfillment, right? And I'm like, I love that. And then obviously we recorded the one with Sarah Wellingham in here, and she was going, actually, but to be really present in the moment, you don't want to be, having that ongoing pursuit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want to just be in the moment. So what do you do to get that balance between the two?
I don't think I do. I think I'm arguing with myself all the time of try harder, chill out, try harder, chill out. It goes back and forth, sometimes within a minute, sometimes within a day. I think, like I said, it's not I'm not fulfilled. It's that as good as it is now, there is something in me, there's a power that I can change and optimize and alter my course if I want. And that sounds pretty highfalutin, even me saying it out loud, but that is how I have had to build a framework around the world around me, because I would get overwhelmed by everything. Everything was so huge, mountains out of molehills, and without a bit of perspective of what a molehill actually looks like, and that's what a mountain looks like. And I can look at both, right? I've got molehills in the garden and I like to climb mountains. Having that perspective, and fulfillment is taking those moments, and you have to remind yourself to take those moments. So then it doesn't feel natural, right? But I don't know how we do it otherwise in the world, unless you are, devout to mindfulness and meditation, and it becomes you. We literally have to tell each other to put our phones down and sometimes pick our phones up, take a photo to remember it, or use your eyeballs. Both matter in great waves in the future.
Again, back to what we just talked about, but the balance side of it. There is, because there's, for me, there is like, I know where, I guess, again, finding that purpose or whatever it is, the alignment with what I'm doing. And so you want to keep moving forward, you want to keep doing things. And at the same time going, I want to meditate, I want to be in the moment, and I want to practice presence, and it's such an important thing. But I do think that there's got to be that balance between the two, because we live in a capitalist society. We can't live completely zen all the time, and I'm going to sit there and meditate and as Sarah Willingham said, polish my basil leaves or whatever. Do you know what I mean? We're not going to... We can't do that all the time necessarily. We can, but that's going to take us on a certain path, right? And if you've got stuff inside you that you're passionate about, you want to do, that lights you up, then that's still the thing. I think it is. I think what you're alluding to and what I'm trying to really understand, and for me as well, as I'm on this journey, is trying to go, I appreciate where I am right now. It's great. This is great. And if I could go back 5 years and go, you'll be doing this now, wow, that's amazing, right? So I appreciate this and try and take stock of where that is. At the same time, got a view on, I am going here though, and that's going to be an exciting path to get there. I think that's where I'm trying to get to.
But like I found, I'm incredibly lucky that I adore my job. This is what I like doing. And another shift I made last year was, if I'd won all the money in the world, I'd still probably do this. I love
that.
And then I was like, well, why? Because why? Why would I like to help people create content? Why would I like to advise people on how to look and sound good on camera? Why would I want to inspire people to try and tell their stories? Is it for me or is it for the other people? And yeah, there's a significance part of me that I like to feel significant in people's lives. But then you've got to find the people that reciprocate that. So a choice I made last year was work with the people I want to work with, not with people that want to pay me. So a couple of jobs just didn't fit. And that in itself has led to work not feeling like work. And I enjoy most days because I'm helping the people I want to help with. So like I found peace by changing my environment, by selecting the people around me a bit more. And that came through networking as well, something I'd never really done, something I started last year. And I hated it. Like I did anxiety and like meeting people, but it's something I hadn't done before. And last year was about going through doors that open for you. And I met people, and it gave me a great opportunity to, it's going to sound crass, but interview the type of people I want to connect with. Like some people, you just need to give them a minute or two and warm them up, or not talk to them about work and find out what they do outside of it. Or like you and I, we just connected over this transparency of mental health and the way we see the world, and why so many people suffer with imposter syndrome or anxiety or just feeling like a failure. And that is those like fulfilled moments. So give me all the money in the world, I'll probably just buy more kit and do more of this.
I love it.
And I'm lucky I'm there, right? I'm not, I've had lots of weird jobs in the past, you know. I've changed ceiling tiles after the smoking ban came in pubs. I've cleaned snooker tables. Right? I used to count thousands of pounds worth of money every night at a money depot. I've had weird jobs where you just got paid. But I like this one. Will I do it forever? I don't know. But whatever I do next, I'm going to try and take that forward, because I don't need a lot of wealth.
And that's because there's I think that if there's one thing I try and teach the kids is that, like, that thing, like, do the thing that lights you up, right? Like, do the thing that, like, even the programs we're doing in schools, like, just trying to get that message across to kids that just do something that you really enjoy doing. Because even when, like, again, I know I've gone down this almost rabbit hole with stuff before, where you sort of look at what society or what the world has told us we should be doing, and what we and you know, need to get a job for this amount of time and you get a pension and then you retire. It's like, I remember talking to someone the other day. I'm like, why would I retire? Like, in all honesty, why would I want to retire? To do what?
Yeah.
I'm again similar to you, lucky in the sense that we do things that light us up, that we enjoy doing.
That matter.
Right? So that matter. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's it. And I don't know, how do we get that message across to kids, that next generation, more?
I was doing a podcast yesterday, producing a show, and we had Mark Kermode on, who does his own podcast, Mayo and Kermode, about films and stuff. And he's big. He plays in like skiffle bands and stuff, and big into blues and stuff like that. And he had this point that really resonated with me. Where he was like, you might think you're crap at music, but you're probably not as bad as you think. As long as you're picking the instrument up and creating what you want to create in that moment for you. And that's enough. And he said, but too many people go, I could never do that. I could never be as good as you. And they just put themselves down. And I developed an idea last year about local music. Local music scene struggling. And in it, I identified, sort of doing some research and talking to people, there's a culture of people that won't pick up a guitar because they're not going to be Taylor Swift. Well, that's not the point of the guitar. That's not the point of writing down your ideas and trying. And there are people that don't pick up the guitar anymore because they're too old. No one will want to hear me play. And it's sad that the two ends of the scale have both got almost this sort of roadblock to being creative and doing something you love. And I think that's a big part of something I look at in life, is giving people the opportunity to feel or think a different way, but not at the detriment of other people, is probably the right way. So yeah, if we could go into schools and say to all the kids, like, you can be anything. You don't have to be a millionaire. You don't have to have sports cars, but you can. Like, I'd probably love a Lambo. I'd never get it in the NCP, right? That's a hard right angle. I'm going to destroy that thing. And my parking's awful, right? So it would be fun to have, but it'd be a waste of time. And that's what a lot of people say when they get these luxury cars. They can't park them anywhere because they're so worried someone's going to key it or someone's going to fall on it, or it's going to, and then they blow up anyway because they're so highly tuned. So then there's this, it's dispelling the myths and looking at the truth behind it. Yeah. And you've got to be careful as well to not go the other way, which is like, there's no point.
Yeah, I agree, and I think this is something I'm really, really keen to get across. I think the message is that, because where I've landed with it is that I can understand that sometimes the narrative of what I'm saying will maybe make people think that that those aspirations are a waste of time. We just got do the inner work and all of that. And I do think that we look internally is the way forward. That's where real success comes from, when we look internally and we find out what that means to us inside, right? And there's nothing wrong with the other external stuff, but if you hang your happiness on that, that's where there's potentially a problem. Also, to the point where you go, like, you still want, what I'm hoping with the program that we deliver, I still want people to be ambitious, right? Still want people to get up and thrive. And I'm more ambitious today than I've ever been. Yeah. But for different reasons, right? Because it's come from inside as opposed to the external. I think that's for me, one of the big learnings, I think, is that, I don't know what you think about that, but like you still want people to be ambitious, right? You still want give them kids to go, you can do anything you want, but the internal instead of external. I think that's where the balance for me lies.
I think something I've learned over the years is underpinning everything is communication. Whether we're talking to other people or talking to ourselves, it's the language you use and how it's received is so instrumental. So going into schools and talking to kids, we don't want them to think and feel different than they already do. We want them to be able to communicate to themselves and people around them what they want to do, right? And sometimes that's completely unreasonable. There will be moments where you're like, oh, I want this. Cool. You can't have it now, but you might be able to in the future, or it's completely unreasonable. That's not possible. But thanks for telling me. And now we understand each other a bit better. And that goes internally too. Like, I'm brutal to myself internally. And learning to listen to the voice and understand how I can utilize what it's telling me in the best way. So I think it's communicating. It's saying to people, like, carefully think about what you want to say and why it matters to you, and then don't be afraid to say it. I think if we get into, we don't want to go into politics or anything, but the idea of people being afraid to say things because they don't want to be ostracized or outcast is sad, but there is always another group. There's always another person. But you can, in that moment, say something, get alienated and feel isolated. And then that's it. We start this spiral of despair and down we go. So it's a risky thing, communicating what we think, feel, and what we want to do. So that's the bravery, right? Well, I guess bravery is doing something knowing there might be danger, but then courage is doing it knowing what the danger implicitly is.
I love that. Yeah.
Do you want courageous kids in the future? But we want caring, courageous kids because we've got enough arseholes. We don't want to spawn more of those.
Yeah. Well, talking about kids, take me back to a young Matt. What do I need to know about you growing up that's sort of shaped who you are today? What was life growing up for you?
Looking back, more confusing than I realised at the time. Didn't understand why I saw the world differently to other people. Not that I had some sort of magic power or whatever, but I would pay a lot of attention to how other people behaved to my own detriment. I would see people do things and think, well, why are they behaving like that? And they didn't even realise they did it. So I think growing up, I was constantly analysing myself to a level that was a waste of my time. I made myself anxious, miserable. I made myself overly emotional. I think little Matty was a bit of an emotional boy. People would say I was a green-eyed monster. I get envious over things, or I get like stroppy, but I just didn't understand like why people did things the way they did, and that made me inherently curious. I think my parents gave me the ultimate safe space, but looking back, I think I realised sort of infant school, junior school, top end of primary school kind of thing, that mum and dad were proud of me no matter what. You know what that meant? I didn't have to try. Right? Like, I didn't want my parents to like enforce things. I loved that. That they just loved me no matter what. That's all anyone could ever ask for, right? And that still to this day is all I want, is to be loved. And, that was fantastic. But at the same time, I didn't realise their own struggles as a kid. And there's probably a reason they weren't hammering me to make sure I did my homework and making sure that my grades were good and that I was, top of the class, or why wasn't I an athlete? There wasn't any of that. They just loved being in our little family bubble, and that was safe. And that safe space, I think, made me complacent as a boy, and understanding my place in the world was challenging outside of my family bubble.
Oh, that's really interesting. Because I'm looking at that and thinking that's what we want, and you sort of almost want all parents to create that space. What could, in your head then, what could maybe they have done differently, or would you have wanted at that point then, do you think?
As a grown-up, and we all get to these points, don't we, when we sort of realise that when we get to our parents' age, when they had kids and stuff, and then you go, oh, geez, I have no idea what I'm doing. They had no idea what they were doing either. We all have but you think of like adults as like, they must know loads of stuff. I don't think an adult is a thing. I think we're just constantly learning children. And when people fight that childlike behaviour in us of curiosity and play, then we become curmudgeonly and bitter. But what I'd wish from my parents was that they optimised themselves to feel happier and safer. Both suffered with depression. Life was a bit much, and I didn't realize certain behavior patterns until I got older and had those behavior patterns of depression and anxiety and isolating yourself, and, you know, drink as well, like how you use drink and how much of it is part of what you do. Dad was always in the pub and stuff, and that was great. Like growing up, I met loads of weird people. It was awesome. But yeah, I think for them, I wish they were happier. I wish that their lives as parents, for themselves, they were happy. They were vicariously happy through us, and they were happy for their family unit, and that's gorgeous and cute. But there's like, may I be well, may you be well, may all be well. Their I be well wasn't there. It was out external. Both of them carers. Mum worked in care. Dad was a residential care home manager, and then he became a inspector, all about caring for other people. My grandmother was a matron of a care home, and Mum then moved into education and worked in inclusion units, and then she worked with learning disability kids at a like adventure centre. So always caring for others. And I realised growing up that they weren't always caring for themselves. So that's something that I've learned that makes me different now. And as I grew, I saw that the veil lifts slowly, doesn't it, with your parents? You know, like when you become a teenager and you start to see how your relationships change with friends and girlfriends or whatever, right? And then you see that reflected in your parents, and you're like, okay.
It's so because there's that element, isn't there? Like, I think especially becoming a parent, you almost go, I want the best for your kids, and of course you want that, and you want to give them. But I'm really along the lines of the same with in a partnership, a marriage, a relationship, whatever that looks like. That you fundamentally, you've still got to be you. Right? You still, like, I think I've been with Kelly since I was 18. So my whole adult life, there was me and someone else. So Sam and Kelly or whatever. And then you become a father, and then it's like, so you're a husband, and then now I'm a father. So your identity can be wrapped up in it, but you can't lose track of who you are as a person. I think that's what I'm sort of hearing. I wonder whether that with my parents as well, like, that they live their lives almost not through us, but they're there to provide a safe space for us, and they give us love and that, which we obviously clearly both receive. But did they follow their dreams? Maybe did they do what lit them up, like we're talking about for us?
My mum would say her greatest success was me and my brother, and that's fantastic, right? That really is. But she's a tortured soul. She doesn't rate herself, and you know, it took me to sort of get to sort of landmark moments as a kid growing up, and at the teenage age, you then see your parents slightly different. You're like, oh, she's not happy, but she is. But it's not always there. And I got really badly bullied when I was 13, and I just didn't know where to go, because those were the only friends I had, and they all hated me, and it culminated in this huge fight in the playground, and both me and the guy I fought got called in to see the headmaster afterwards. It was caught on the cameras or whatever, and we both denied that we did any fighting. I'm not going to admit to this, you know. It wasn't us. We know you both were. Look at both your knuckles. And off the back of it, someone different from a different group was walking home the same way as me and came up to see if I was all right. And I was a football player and he was a rugby boy. And at that moment, that changed the trajectory of my life, because I stood up for myself, knowing full well that having that fight, I was going to lose everything. I might have been able to win them back at some point in my head. And you see these sort of moments of like fighting for something and then giving up, and then fighting for something and giving up. And from that point onwards, I became friends with that guy called Charlie, who's now, you know, in the police, and we've been friends for years. And I started playing rugby, and that changed my whole world, because it brought in discipline. It brought in extreme violence, you know, but then you shake the man's hand afterwards. That, like, don't hold a grudge, party hard, but work hard, train hard. but all of the rugby boys were intelligent. They all wanted to go to good universities like York and Cambridge. And I was a DE student, you know. But they brought me up because I wanted to fit in. And that's a big moment where I realised you can change and you can feel and think different and you can be something else. And, you know, and then I looked at my parents and I was like, oh, they're still just, are they just them? Or are they just what we need them to be? And I think back to that moment a lot of like, I would be a very different person if I didn't meet that person on the way home and change my life that way. So that was a big part of my childhood, is like rugby. But now, I mean, like skipping ahead, I'm late diagnosed with ADHD. And it all made sense when that came together of never knew where I fitted in, never knew I was good enough, never knew if I could be better or whether I was just shit. And that constant masking, constant fitting in. So yeah, you see things like that when you look back and you reflect on it. So that was a huge moment.
So I guess the late ADHD diagnosis, like you said, DE student or whatever, and struggling, I guess, then at school. And I guess this is one of the things that, again, why the system's so broken, right? Because it only recognises a certain way of learning, whereas, you know, neurodivergent way of looking at things is different, right? It's just different, and I think that's where it needs to. So, but do you think that's led, like, looking back and unpicking that led to some? We've spoke briefly, and we'll go on to it a little bit more about the self-worth and the belief in yourself, like the anxiety and all of those elements that you've mentioned. From the ADHD side of it, or not understanding at that young age?
Completely not understanding how the thing I love is the thing I hate. So going back to rugby, right? I hated training with a passion because I wasn't as good as the other boys. I never got to a good level, but I didn't want to drop a ball. I'm so afraid of dropping a ball and the ridicule. But in the same breath, like, doing that made me feel like I was part of something. I belonged. I had a number, you know, and it was great going from a 13-year-old kid that was shirt number 22 and might come on the wing for 5 minutes, probably drop the ball and everyone laugh at him, progressing through to being the captain of the team and the number 5 shirt was mine. And like that sense of belonging. But I fucking hated any opportunity to fail, which was inherent in all sport. It's inherent in everything. And that sort of parallel thinking, I didn't understand it. I wanted to be involved, but I wanted to be involved on my terms where I couldn't ever make a mistake. I guess everyone probably has that. And that was something I struggled with terribly. But then if I got injured or I couldn't play rugby or there wasn't any rugby, my emotions were all over the place. No emotional regulation. Because I wasn't physically exerting myself and getting that dopamine and serotonin. I wasn't having that sense of belonging. And as much as we say education's a bit archaic, you know, it was built to get communist ideals across in Prussia in the 1800s, right? It was a way of demonstrating, you know, sovereign pride. And it was built for that, and everyone had to go in and say the same things, and at the end of the thing they'd be tested. And we still use that now, but that's where it came from. It swept across Western Europe. But that system of school was actually a structure that kept my mind boxed and contained. If I was fighting against how shit school was, then I had no energy for anything else. And without school I wouldn't have had the rugby. And, you know, there was this moment, sort of 16, I guess, where, I mean, I'm a class clown. Like that, it was easy to be that, right? Ridicule myself, jokes. I was quick-witted. I mean, that's a different thing as well, where I hyperthink about everything I'm going to do. So people think I'm sharp as a tack and really witty, but I've actually rehearsed everything I'm going to say a million times in my head before I get there. So I'll go to any event fatigue because I'm on the back foot, because I'm trying to imagine how everyone's going to behave, think and feel, so that when I get there, I've got some semblance of control, which is exhausting. So those systems actually kept me in place. And I remember once we had a really successful year. And like most of the team got selected for county rugby, Kent or Sussex. They went off to their respective counties. And the coach, a mate of mine's dad, Dave, who's sadly passed now, he made me captain, which I thought was the most stupid thing I've ever heard, because I'm just a div in the corner that has all the wisecracks. I used to pride myself on sort of being like Deadpool at the bottom of a ruck. Someone stands on my face and I'm still making wisecracks, because it would wind people up and I'd have control of the situation. But he told me to put the captain's armband on, and I didn't know. I thought he was joking. But in that moment, I then had to do that, cheesy thing of like rallying the boys in the changing room, getting in a huddle. Come on, boys. And I just
How did you respond
things.
to that role as a leader, I guess? Like,
Well, for me, it wasn't a leader, it was a performing. Like I had to do the thing. I then remasked and stood up and I said the things that I'd heard my mates when they were captains say. Think about the badge, eyes up, look around the room, look at the man next to you. This is the person you're playing next to. You've got each other's back. This is a very simple game. We confuse it. Very simple. Support each other. Move. Get there. Make everyone proud. And whatever you do, do not fuck up. Let's go, boys. And out we go. And people, they loved it. And it'd get bigger and bigger every time. And it put me in a position of responsibility. And I'd never been prouder to be asked to have that role. And
do you feel you thrived in that?
Oh, no, shit myself.
Really?
Now, not only the captain, but I've also a shit rugby player. Right? So I've got to drop the ball. I've got to miss tackles. I've got to make mistakes. I've got to be in the wrong position. I've got to make calls maybe that aren't the right call, to kick for touch instead of going for the points. The responsibility's there. And I thrived in it and hated in it. But it was so extreme that I became slightly like attached to it, that whenever it went wrong, I learned in that moment I had to say, that's on me. In fact, anyone, the other 14 players on the pitch and the boys on the bench, anything went wrong, it was my fault. And that ownership gave me, like, I don't know, it's like a quiet, I liked being able to be to blame for everything.
Why though?
Because someone else didn't have to have it. Now we see the similarity to my parents of caring for others.
Yeah, I was just about to say, yeah.
That subservience of, I'll take this bullet so you don't have to. And I found that was a big, and it's how I work today. Like, I will do heavy lifting for you as much as I can. If something goes wrong, I will go and deliver the bad news because I can take it, he says.
But what because that I mean, it's quite. I think there's elements of being in service of others that helps. Right, it helps us to feel successful by helping other people and get through stuff. We can feel good about ourselves, and talk about asking for help or all of them things. But if you're able to help others, then that's a great thing, right? And it gives you a thing. But there, again, back to that. I guess it's back to that feeling of putting yourself first and not taking that, like, and that the adage with the oxygen mask, right? Like, that's such a brilliant thing, but it's something that's so true that so many of us probably don't do enough. But it's the most important, and I think especially like even back to coming circle back to your parents and that feeling of just not putting themselves first. There's got to be elements of. I wonder why we don't teach these things in schools around this. Again, this is back to internal work, I guess, right? Like why we don't understand. Because I'm curious about your relationship with your parents and all them things you're sort of feeling and what you saw with them, and maybe you mentioned about them maybe not being overly happy. Did you ever talk about that? Was there ever communication around that from?
Yeah, I think sort of by our mid-teens, my brother and I were both very much clued up on the state of affairs with everything in the household, bar mum and dad's personal relationship, right? We knew how much money we had. We knew why we weren't going here or what we weren't getting for Christmas or where we had to cut corners or why mum's exhausted or why dad's exhausted. It was all very transparent that the parent-child barriers got tighter, a lot closer, and we all became friends, I guess, more than there wasn't a hierarchy. And that losing that hierarchy, I guess, leans into what you were talking about, is about the self-worth, and looking at that, like being able to take the bullet for someone is because inherently in my head, I deserve the bad things. I deserve to feel shit. Like inherently, I don't feel like I'm worthy of anything. And I don't know if that's, well, that is probably a big part of the way my mind's wired. But also I saw that with my parents of sort of, they would run themselves into the ground. So monkey see, monkey do, maybe. And yeah, I knew what it was like to be a grown up. And I guess one side of me would be very selfish about it and upset, and then the other side would be, woe is me, and it's just the way life is. I think I've described myself for a long time as a nihilist, a hedonistic nihilist. Like, we're all dust in the wind, there's no point, it's all completely fucking irrelevant, but let's get shit-faced. Right? And when I've been at my lowest points, the hedonistic, like, yeah, I know it's all fucked, but let's have a good time. When that bit goes, when I'm not seeing that it's terrible, but there's light and dark, and it can exist at the same time, let's put a spin on it. When I lose the ability to turn that frown upside down, that's when I get bad, really bad. But yeah, it comes from this place of self-worth and looking and if I can help someone else, that's a lot easier. And one of the things I realized coming out of school and then going into work and then playing sports still was those were structures I existed within, and they had boundaries of what was and what wasn't acceptable. And I definitely tested those, but they were always there, and they were always consistent. So when I sort of became self-employed and stopped playing rugby or moved to a different area, that's when things get bad, because I don't belong in anything. Therefore, what's the point? So, and I wonder if I see that growing up of like, my parents tried really hard, but underlying it was like this, still feel a bit worthless.
And did you get the overarching feeling from them that that's how they felt? Like they just didn't feel that they felt like that, worthless. Use that word, worthless. Was that the overriding impression of life through their eyes that you got?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's hard because maybe Mum will say this. I don't know, but Mum just like she just felt she wasn't worth anyone's time, and it didn't matter how many times the three of us, my dad and my brother, said, "No, you are." She didn't believe it. She has to believe it. And I have problems still to this day exactly the same. There's probably a high chance she's ADHD as well. I mean, maybe, I don't know. But it's and a diagnosis and a title or a condition or a way of being doesn't really change the way you are. You just sometimes helps you frame things differently. I think a lot of people can go, "Oh, I'm this, therefore I can do that," or "I can't do this because of that."
Yeah, I think I remember talking to you about this before, like with the I think, and a few people I've had on the podcast who have had a late diagnosis, whether it be autism, ADHD, or neurodiversity, that it just allowed them to make sense of a little bit more, which was a healthy thing, right? Like not so I'm going to label this so that I can go, right, I'm like that because of this now, and I can't do this, or I can do this because of that, whatever it is. But ultimately, it just gives you more of an understanding of yourself. And I guess the whole thing for me, learning and on all of this is the work on ourselves. The more we look inward to find out more about ourselves, the more we can better equip ourselves with tools to cope with life, I think.
Yep. All the negative traits that I have struggled with have also in the same breath been the thing that makes me good at the stuff I do. My incredible imposter syndrome when I started in TV made me repeat tasks over and over so that I could get them not done better, but faster, to give me time to check my work. I was so paranoid that everyone was better than me and that I'd get found out and I was a fraud, that I would watch hours of videos, I would listen to stuff, I would read books about how to be a better sound designer, engineer. And then I realized, oh, this isn't actually, like, this too narrow. I need to understand everything about media, because if I understand how idea to ear, the entire chain works, then I can be better at understanding how to serve in the bit that I do. And that constant nagging feeling of I'm not good enough. I mean, I was a dubbing mixer full-time through to about 2014, from 2006. And I left as head of audio at a West London post facility. But there wasn't a sign-off that I didn't get clammy hands and anxiety, and someone was going to come in and tell me whether I'd done a good or bad job. But it's so subjective. And that was the thing that I learned, was it didn't matter how good I mixed. It was about how good I made the person watching the film or the documentary feel about the energy that everyone had put into it. And mitigating and managing their experience of doing that sign off with me was actually more important than whether I knew what my compressor settings were. But those parallel of constantly, I'm not good enough, I'm worried about what everyone else thinks, or what if this person doesn't like me, I'm shit, I'm not good enough. And then it goes back around again, or I'll get better, or I'll find ways of doing things quicker so I can go through it. I remember meeting a guy that was like, oh, it's a 3-day mix, and by the end of day 3, he's just got to the last minute. I couldn't do that. I've got to do that thing like 80 times. I've got to dig through, because I can't trust that what I've done a minute ago was good enough. I've got to check it. And you see it with people with OCD, right? The switch is off. I need to go back and check my work. But now I know that I've done such high reps of that profession that I could do it quicker and quicker and quicker. But it all came from an absolute fear that I'm useless, helpless, I will get found out, and I'll never be good at anything. So I can't, which is why I guess I have a viewpoint on the titles or the diagnosis, or I am this. Cool, you are that, but what does that empower you to do rather than restrict you to do? I am incredibly quick at doing certain things, and I have a wealth of knowledge that I probably don't need, but I like to have, because that cycle of...
Well, you've done, and also with that, you've done your 10,000 hours, right? When you go in and you really, and again, it leans back to the stuff that you've leaned into saying that you enjoy. As you obviously love the stuff that you're doing, so you're in that. So you want to do your 10,000 hours, you are, and you want to be the best you can possibly be, and that's a great thing, right? But it's interesting that it comes from more a fear factor as opposed to going, I love this and I'm gonna be the best at this, and I'm gonna, because how then do you, I'd be interested then over this last period, like when you got into that, and like if you enjoyed that process, because we talk about enjoying the journey and the cliches that come out with that, but like trying to get into your head, like, do you ever allow yourself to...
Don't try and get in there, mate.
But I'm wondering,
lots of dead ends, I think.
Yeah.
It's a labyrinth with no middle, just lots of edges.
But because of the constant, I'm assuming from what you're saying, the constant almost beating yourself up, and the self-worth and the worthlessness, that I've got to keep getting better, because the fear of failure or the fear of being found out. When do you allow yourself to enjoy that process, or have you ever allowed yourself to enjoy that?
When do I get to enjoy that process? I think there's the doing. It hurts when you first start. Like, you can't get good without start. Everyone starts. Everyone's clumsy at some point. But unfortunately, I don't give myself a long runway. You know, I get in the cockpit and someone goes, here's the controls. And I'm like, okay, well, now I need to know how to do a barrel roll. And if I don't, I'm useless. And it's that overwhelm, which turned into anger, inherently angry, really, really angry, because I'm frustrated at myself for being frustrated at myself for not being good enough, and then not living in the moment or not enjoying things, and looking back, I wasted days criticizing myself when I didn't need to. But that moved me further forward, but also at the same time stopped me enjoying life. So I'm going backwards and forward at exactly the same speed, and then I feel like I'm going nowhere, and then I feel like, oh, it's helpless, there's no point, and then become Eeyore, and then that anger comes back, or that fear factor comes back, and I'm Tigger. So I'm Eeyore and Tigger in any one moment at any time, and it can be overwhelming. I think I've had 3 probably big breakdowns in my life. First one, I was 17 or 18, and I think of it as like the tears of a clown moment. That was a moment when my best mates, or these new mates that I'd made, turned around and said to me, like, you are being a dick. And I got too big for my boots. I'd found a new space, a new sport I fitted in. I was funny, you know, and I just went too far. And it came from a responsibility to be the funniest, fastest, quickest person in the room. And then when I wasn't, or I did get upset, or I didn't behave in the, you know, a bit like Jim Carrey, right? He's not even sure what the personality of Jim Carrey was after a while, because it was one of those moments where I just broke. I had a night out and things went wrong, and I behaved in a way that wasn't appropriate. I misread. I was hyper defensive over someone, and it actually caused a massive fight, which caused huge ripples. And I became agoraphobic immediately, just hid in the house for 6 months. I didn't go to school. I had to restart A-levels and stuff when I did go back. And I went and got help, and the therapist was like, you're not always the clown. And the clown can be sad. It's just that if you set yourself up that you will always deliver a certain standard of person and there's nothing else, don't be surprised if people get upset. You've conditioned the world around you to expect you to be the funny class clown, the feel-good guy, the guy that can solve problems, make people feel better, you know, get stuff done in service. And then when I wasn't, then it was a problem for everyone else. And that was very, very confusing, because I didn't understand it, because I'd done everything right. I'd just done one thing wrong, and that wasn't, you know.
You mentioned a couple of times about like the masks and stuff, and you constantly trying to be this person to fit in or belong or something. Has there been anyone like throughout your life, or where you're been able to just truly be you, just comfortable, or do you even know? Do you know exactly what that who that Matt is?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, I think at the moment I'm with someone, Sarah, who, when we met off the back of a really low time, like I was in a bad place. On the first 2 dates, just trauma dumped. But that was with the anticipation of demonstrating how poor I was suited to spend time and be with. I thought she'd run. And I let everything out, just, here's everything. You don't want this. This is like toxic. I've got a lot to fix. I'm nowhere near where I need to be. And yeah, I don't know who I'll be in a year. I don't know who I'll be in 10 years. And the relationship I had before had evolutions where we were just ourselves. But then life gets in the way, and things change. And I changed myself too much. And, you know, after the end of the second date, Sarah turned around to me and she goes, I've had shit happen to me too. So we'll talk about that on date 3. And I was like, oh, okay. So there's a date 3? And she's like, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. She goes, one thing though, don't ever assume how I feel or what I'll do next. ask me. And
I love that.
But there's nothing to hide. I rocked up with a wardrobe with skeletons and just tipped them on her. And I was like, here's all my stuff. I'm broken. I might always be broken. And she went, oh, that's cute. Let's keep going. What else you got? And I still don't know. It's disarming. Like, I don't know. When she's nice to me now, I kind of push it away. I'm like, stop giving me compliments, because I don't feel like I deserve it. And it was that lifting of the veil. There's still, I think everyone masks, because if we inherently behaved entirely as we want in every situation, this world would be awful, right? Yeah, I feel like I want to do this. It's like Brené Brown, we both need to get to 100. So if you're at 50, I need you to do 50 as well. But if you're at 90 and I'm at 10, that's wicked. Or we switch that round. There is that compromise that in any one moment, you have to put on a brave face. And sometimes you have to step up, not just for the other people around you, but for yourself, to demonstrate you can move forward. You know?
It's interesting that, I guess, do you feel like with Sarah, she may be one of the first people to hold that space for you?
No, I think lots of people held the space for me. I just pushed it away.
Right, okay.
Or I didn't treat it right, or I didn't realise what I had, or I was still in the pursuit of success, right? Oh, if I do that, then that'll do that, and then I'll do that, and I'll do that. Or if I have a little bit more money in the bank, then the pressure will be off. And then you might get to a point where you've got like, oh, I've got a couple of grand in the bank, oh, no stress. And then like, oh, money's gone. Huh, shit. This is like your washing. You have to keep doing it. You can't just do your washing once and it's all done. And it would always be, I think the thing that I found over time is I had to take accountability. And this kind of goes back to that rugby thing. That was a really big moment being made captain, because I was all of a sudden responsible for everything and I had to accept it. But in so many other areas of my life, I didn't reflect that and I didn't see the parallels of that. I think my second breakdown was I've moved to Australia, left my job, went off to Australia, travelled around, settled, and I got out to Australia and realised, oh, bollocks, they're watching the TV I mixed in London. So they import all their UK TV because it's English, but they also don't care about accents. So they import all the US TV. So 66% of the Australian TV was stuff I'd already worked on. There was it wasn't a thriving, I should have stayed in London. But I tried and it didn't work. It didn't go the way I wanted, but I really loved it out there. And then I came home and who the hell am I? I'd failed again. And I didn't know who I was. I didn't know whether I wanted to go back into TV. I didn't know where, and I it's now probably looking at it was ADHD burnout, but the doctors, I had a dissociative disorder. I just kind of went numb. It all got so much that I went numb. And there was a tragic, wonderful feeling about it. It was like, I didn't care about anything. And that was quite nice. I was just like, But it was affecting everything. It affected my relationships, my work ethic. I kept crashing the car because I just couldn't be bothered to turn a corner sometimes, or, just like bump into a car. I was like, just vacant. I was a bit of a zombie. I just frazzled myself out. So worried about what I was and what I wasn't, what I am, where shall I go next? How do I, when I meet someone that I've seen from school, what am I going to say? Am I, that kind of embarrassment of, what you're doing with your life. Did you ever see the film Basketball?
No.
Really old film, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the guys that did South Park. And there's this bit where they go to a reunion and they go up to this guy like, yo, buddy, what are you doing? Still living at home with your mom playing Nintendo? And he's like, no, I'm an investment banker. And he goes, you guys? And I'm like, living at home with my mom playing Nintendo. And I felt like I have that in my head. I'm like, I'm not doing, I want to assume that everyone else has failed as much as me to give me the solace. And that was my second big burnout moment. And from that, I had to learn to introspectively work out what mattered to me.
From that then, because just listening to that is like just the thought of, I guess what the podcast is all about, right? Where you're so fixated on the external validation from everyone else, like they're I'm failing at everything, and like I love what Sarah said to you about don't assume how I feel. But we do, don't we? The assumptions of how people feel or how people view us.
Yeah.
There's a certain perception of that, and maybe what we show the world, what we would like them to see, and that's what they, that's what it is. But it lends itself into that whole narrative of this is what I should be doing at this age. How old would you have been then? That period.
So that would have been 2015. So yeah, 31.
Yeah. So you're there, and again, we get to them points in life where you just constantly go, I'm looking around and I'll bump into people. I'll tell them I'm doing this now, or I'm doing this now, and I've not achieved this. And the benchmark in which you're measuring it is based on an external thing, right? As opposed to.
Well, it's really, and there's this like serendipity that goes all the way through life. I was so burnt out and broken at that time. This is 2015, and do you know what I did? I started helping people produce podcasts, and here we are.
Wow!
Right?
Wow!
And that was a low moment. I think that's, you say that, well, were there moments where I enjoyed it? I tell you, the days I really, really enjoyed life is when I just got everything done in the time I wanted to get it done, and I was pleased with the result. And then I got that external validation from the producer or commissioning editor coming and going, that was really good, Matt, thanks. See you on the next one. And I didn't stress myself out because I was good enough to do it at the time I wanted to do it, and I boxed it all off. And those were the days where I was like, oh, no, I can do this. No, I can do this. In fact, I had to get it out of TV in the end because it's changed a lot now, mainly because there's no television anymore. But there was this moment in 2014, this is when I decided to leave, where I'd been given a project for Discovery. It was a pilot, and it was called 100%... And the pilot was 100% planes. And they basically looked at all the flying vehicles in the world, what percentage of them are jets, what percentage of them are fighter jets, what percentage of them are biplanes. And I got given a week to do this mix. And I said to my boss, that's not enough time. This is a surround sound project. I need more than that. She's like, that's all the money they've got. It's a pilot. It's a week. Monday, deliver Friday. So I started working on it and realised that they had archive footage, but they didn't have any sound. I need the sound. So I then panicked because I don't know what these engines sound like. So I then had to spend the morning just panicking, looking at all the different jets and what engines is that? Is that a Rolls-Royce engine? I can use that there. Oh, that's a jet engine. Right, okay. Panicked. And then at 2:00 on the Monday, I got a phone call from my boss saying, we're going to have to bring it forward a day. The exec can't do Friday. We're bringing it forward to Thursday. And without hesitating, I was like, okay, you know what that means? And she went, yeah. I was like, I'm not going home, am I? She said, no. So I worked all the way through the night to try and make the time up. Slept on the sofa for a couple of hours, got up, went to the shower, came back to work. 2:00 on the Tuesday, the same thing happened again. And she goes, it's Wednesday at 5. And I didn't go to bed again. I worked all the way through. Wednesday morning at 11, I'm shattered. I'm so nervous. This thing matters to me more than anything now because I put so much time into it. I got a phone call and said, actually, producer's coming in at 2:30. Will you be ready? And I said, absolutely not, but I don't have a choice, do I? And she went, that's the spirit. The client came in, long story short, like they all are with me. The client came in, signed it off, loved it, brilliant, thanks, Matt. And sigh of relief, like I don't know how I pulled that off. I mean, I did it in 2.5 days, 50% less time. Out of curiosity, I said to the producer, I was like, oh, Discovery must be really urgent for this because, we had to bring it forward like 2.5 days. And he goes, oh, Discovery, it went over budget so much, they'll never commission it, but we've got to deliver it. And I was like, oh, you've got to deliver it now? And he goes, nah, February next year. I was like, oh, so why do we have to get it done like now? And he goes, oh, I've got a Christmas party I want to go to in Scotland later this evening. And I want to go up early and chill out before I go to my party. And I hadn't been to bed for 2 days. So this guy, but he didn't know. So I couldn't be angry at him. And this is one of those, hindsight moments where I was like, oh, this isn't the industry for me because I'm never going to be appreciated for the work I get in because no one up the chain is going to tell them, oh, by the way, our dubbing mix has not been to bed for 2 days for you. Because they just think we've got a team of dubbing mixers and we could just put shifts on. And so all of this assumption, right, could have made me feel diabolical. I could have kicked off at him, would have been very unprofessional, but I could have beaten myself up and felt low self-worth. But instead I was like, I need to make a change. I'm going to go somewhere else. So I went to the other side of the world. Bit extreme, but yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about one of our sponsors, Nostos, an authentic experience of Greece right here in the heart of Hove. In a world brimming with dining options, finding that one place that captivates your palate and heart isn't always easy. It's about more than food. It's the stories, the ambience, the slice of another world. This is the essence of Nostos, an award-winning Greek restaurant. With traditional recipes passed down through generations, each dish promises a story and a piece of heritage. And Nostos is more than just a restaurant, it's a community contributor. Each dining experience supports initiatives close to their heart, from local charities to cultural events, enriching Brighton and Hove's social fabric. They also provide catering services, bringing Greek cuisine to your personal events. For a taste of Greece without leaving town, visit nostos-hove.co.uk. And when you do go, say Sam recommended the feta nests. Oh my God, they are amazing.
But yeah, it wasn't the producer's fault, but it was.
I get it. Yeah.
So there's all these external factors, and all I can control in that moment is, like, is it, if I signed up for it and it's unfair, then...
I guess back to the accountability, responsibility, like taking ownership of them things. Some of them lessons that you do learn and you take. I mean, that's a hell of a shit to put on you. But I guess again, we take lessons from everything. But I'm really, if we can, like you mentioned about a couple of obviously breakdowns and tough, like just trying to piece this together, and then you come to the point, obviously maybe. To last year, where you mentioned obviously, which you shared with me on that day about obviously getting to a real low point.
Yeah.
Would you say that would be the darkest point where you were?
Yeah. I'd lost everything. I think the run up to, we'll say, a couple of very bad attempts at decision making, so you don't get blocked. Sort of runs from losing a lot of the frameworks or masks I would wear, or things that mattered to me. I think a big thing I've learned about my personality is significance. Things feel significant to me that might not to other people. And it means that I hold myself to a very high standard, and I hold my relationships and things like that really precious to me. So it sort of started in 2019. I'd never been fitter, faster, stronger in my life ever. A mate of mine, I helped him set up a gym. I've been training hard for about 3 years. I was absolutely loving rugby. A bit like the work. I'd put in the hard yards that it wasn't horrible. I wasn't hands on hips, blowing out my arse every game and just feeling awful. I was skipping off the pitch afterwards. I was fit. And never scored more tries in my life. I'm a forward. One was my peak. And I'd sort of every 2 years I'd score one try, and I'd probably just accidentally fall over the line, didn't know where I was. But I was scoring tries. I was loving it. Last game of the season that we didn't need to play, I stepped one way, and a guy stepped straight through my left leg, triple open spiral fracture and dislocation, and the skin was about to breach. And it's one of those, I look back at that day a lot because I was so excited for that game. We had our men's dinner that night, the awards ceremony. Massive piss. I was so excited just to get the rugby done, get on the beers. I felt fantastic. And this is something I beat myself up about now, is that I struggle to let myself feel fantastic because I feel like I'm going to lose it all the time. And that day I felt fantastic. And I lost everything. And they had to fly a surgeon to me on the pitch because the skin was about to breach. There was a high chance I'd bleed out. So they flew a helicopter to me. I was pissed off because they kept covering my head and I wanted to see the helicopter because it was distracting because my foot had its own postcode. They operated on the pitch to manipulate it to get it safe. 5 surgeries later. But in that moment, that was rugby done. And that was one of those things I belonged to. That was something I felt part of, but it was also a system. And a reason to go to the gym and a reason to stay fit and all of those relationships. And lots of surgeries, nearly lost a leg. And then 4 months later, it had healed fantastically. They took out some screws, but they put in quite a nasty infection. And I nearly lost a leg a month later through quite a nasty infection that nearly made up to my knee. There was a mark that they'd made just below my knee. Where if it hit that mark, they were going to take the leg, which was pretty savage. Work at the time were very polite and fine on paper, but I felt beholden to them, right? Another system and a framework I fitted in. I was responsible. I was head of audio. I was assistant head of post. I was helping people make cool stuff. It mattered. And yeah, luckily, after 67 bags of orange goo, they suppressed the infection and I went on from there. But it meant I'd lost that system. And I went back to work, and then a couple of weeks before Christmas, they said, we're going to do a whole round of redundancies. Would you like to option to go? And let's say there was an incentive to just go. So I went and I lost another structure. So I'd lost my rugby, I'd lost my work, and then I became self-employed, which sounds fun, but I wasn't really disciplined enough to not let myself beat myself up, right? When I was in a job, I could work hard and someone paid me regardless. When you become the man of different hats, you start spinning your wheels because you're like, well, I need to be doing marketing. I'm not paying thousands for a web developer. I'm going to be a web developer myself. I'll do this, I'll do that, do this. And I didn't know where I was putting my time. I didn't know I was 5% near the finish or 50% away from starting. And that created a lot of space and anxiety for me where I would constantly beat myself up. It started to affect my relationship with my partner because she wanted to encourage me, but also we didn't know if we were wasting time, money or energy. It was just a very tumultuous time. But everyone in a startup and as a solopreneur or self-employed has been there, but it was exacerbated by not having a couple of the systems that I'd had all the way through to about 30-ish. Mid-30s. And then that kind of rolled on. My dad got diagnosed with cancer. He collapsed by my mum's bedside while she was in intensive care, having a robot heart put in. She's got a turbine in her left ventricle of her heart, and she wears batteries on her back or she's plugged into the mains. And she was having this heart procedure done. Dad collapsed by her bedside, and it turns out he had AML cancer. While this was happening, I'd got fit and I'd made some bad business mistakes and lots of, just the normal stuff that people have as their own boss. That was 10x'd for me, but I was never externalizing it properly or understanding it properly. And the joy and despair were just so hot and cold. But one of the things I gave myself was fitness, and I got into things like CrossFit, and I was trying to get fit again. And I got fit enough, and I said to my girlfriend, I'm fitter and faster and stronger than I was when I broke the leg. Do you think I could go back to rugby? And she went, go back to touch and see how you feel. When the last minute of the last game, my Achilles tendon snapped on the right leg. And this is a day before my mum's surgery, and my dad then found out AML. So I was then in a boot. I couldn't help either parent. As soon as the boot came off, I got to Wales and I lived with Dad for about seven months as he battled AML, and the cancer won, unfortunately. But there's one thing I'm really good at is being in a crisis and being at service to someone. And you wouldn't believe the comments I made, and it's hard for me to say this out loud because I don't want to be arrogant, but people are like, I don't know how you're doing so well. I was making strangers in the pub feel better about my dad being sick than I was myself. And I was working in the middle of the night, and then I'd go to the hospital, and I was like a Doberman. I just sat by his bed and, just navigated that. And then Mum got discharged. I had to go to London, get Mum, bring her back. And then Dad got sepsis. And it was just absolute roller coaster. And all while this is happening, my partner's living up in Sussex on her own with no support. We had a dog that was batshit crazy. And after all the dust settled, after Dad passed and we did the wakes and stuff, and got mum settled again. I came back to Sussex, and it was the quiet moment where people would stop saying, I'm sorry for you're lost, that I struggled. And we, as a partner, as a relationship, Abby and I, we discussed and said that we're not spending enough time together to make this work. We need to get rid of the dog, which was incredibly, incredibly hard. And then the dog went, and then she was brutally honest and said, I think I've got to go too. And then it became very, very quiet. Probably the quietest it's ever been. And I was just left with me and my thoughts, and none of them were positive, because I'd already spent, nearly 40 years beating myself up about how shit I was, and I'd lost everything that had kind of mattered to me, that gave me something in service of. I didn't want to make my mum proud. I'm glad she's still around it, but my dad was important to me. We were best mates for a lot of. He started to lose people at a certain point, and I was mid-20s, and I just became my dad's best mate. And we go to bike shows, and we go all over the place, and go to festivals and things together, and trips, and I lost that, and it was heavy. And then I lost the person that loved me the most in that moment. I lost the security blanket of a stupid dog. Mum was miles away. I had no employees to serve. Just me. So, my boss was basically a dick. And I was just in this space, and I was broken, completely lost the joy of anything. I just didn't know what I wanted to be. I moved in this surreal Egyptian guy called Mohammed. Had to rent out the master bedroom, and I slept in a kid's bed because they needed to pay the mortgage. I was just so low. And I'd talk to people, and they'd say, it will be all right. And I'd sort of go, yeah, I know. But what I'd say in my head is, I'm not stupid. I know it'll be all right. But the trouble is, when I get to all right, am I going to still feel like I'm worthless? And when I made some stupid decisions to try and stop everything, it wasn't because I didn't know it would be all right. It's because I didn't want to get to the top of the mountain and still feel utterly, utterly worthless. And be like, I've accomplished something, but I could have done it quicker, or I could have done it better, or beating myself up on the journey is something I've done my whole life, of hurry up to do nothing. People do this a lot, don't they? You see, we've all got that friend that leaves the party early. Hey, what you got on this evening? They're like, nothing. They're like, oh, Ant and Dec's Saturday night takeaway. Is there? You rush home. All your mates are here. You could talk to your mates. They're like, I best get home. It was a bit like that. I was spending a lot of time just wishing I'd done everything already, and wishing my life away. Even at I remember uni. Green Day, Wake Me Up When September Ends. And that's actually when my year ended, because it was an intense year. And that song, I just used to think about it all the time. And I guess, 2024, I just got to a point where I didn't want to keep going, knowing full well that even when it's better, I'm going to hate myself. Really hate myself. And I had a couple of goes at not moving forward. They didn't work, obviously. I'm not a ghost. This isn't The Sixth Sense. And then I started planning more dramatic things. And and then there was a U-turn. I wouldn't say a U-turn. There was a pivot, a change of course, after I went to assess a location. And I made a couple of decisions after that day, and it just brought me back to something that mattered, I guess. I think.
'Cause you mentioned in the thing about a newsletter that come in, and that there was some points on there that had an impact on you, that changed a little bit in your mind. Can you share that?
Yeah, I think I've got them. I think I've still got them listed. yeah, there was a lot of things I did after I'd made my mind up I was going to do it, and then, you know, I kind of surreally I went home a different way, and in driving home from the point that I identified, I drove past a butcher's shop where my cousin worked. I hadn't been in to see him, I hadn't seen him for ages. But because I'd made my mind up I was going to do something, I thought I'd go in and say goodbye without saying goodbye. And when I was in there, I chatted, I told him things, but I didn't really go deep into it, and I definitely didn't tell him what I was planning. And I bought a load of meat. Now, for a guy that's not going to be there in a week, why did I just buy a load of venison sausages and some steaks? Like, there was food already in the freezer. And looking back, that was someone or something in me. I didn't have to buy anything. I could have just popped in and seen him. But I'd sort of made that choice. And then I was like, well, I'll eat this food. And then it was the next day I found this this email came through. And it was an email newsletter that I'd never ever opened ever before. And it was the night that I got back from scouting this location. I bought this meat. And this email came in, and for some reason I clicked on it. And I don't know why. Again, probably because like nothing mattered. I was almost free. I felt a little bit light. And I clicked this email, and it had these 9 realizations in it. And the first one: you are not your thoughts. The voice that speaks in your head is not you. You are the one that hears it speak. Don't identify with what your mind says any more than you identify with what someone on the street says. That was the first one, and I sat there. And then the second one is: action is the antidote to anxiety. You're not afraid of the future when you're moving towards it yourself. If you feel anxiety creeping in, use it as a trigger to lean into action, not stagnation. Do something and you'll feel better. And I thought about that too, and thought about how in these really low points, what had I done? And I'd gone out for a couple of runs, and I did feel better. And I'm like, The third one, and this one mattered a lot to me as well, because I felt like I knew too much. And I knew how, this nihilism of everything's pointless. And the third one was: loneliness is a kind of tax you have to pay to atone for a certain complexity of mind. And it made me feel like no one has your mind, and in such a way that you will always feel a little bit alone sometimes, because not everyone's going to feel and think exactly the same as you. And God help them if they did. More of me would be dangerous. The weirder you are, the fewer people are like you, and the fewer people will get you. This is fine. That loneliness, Number 4, your weirdness is your competitive advantage. No one can beat you at being you. I mean, it's a pretty one-horse race, but, embrace your traumas, life experiences, scars, your funny accent, whatever it is. This is what sets you apart. The weirder you are, the more unique you are, and the more competitive and interesting you are. And again, that just kind of felt like it was speaking to me in a way that I wouldn't expect anyone to speak to me. 5, joy has to be found today, not tomorrow. If you can't be happy with a coffee, you won't be happy with a yacht. And I think I've always kind of had that. I've always enjoyed moments. I've enjoyed a lot of my life. I've enjoyed, but I've always enjoyed it with this horrible niggling self-worth thing. Even on a night out, I would struggle. I'd be like a sheepdog. I didn't like the fact that the group would split up. I want everyone to be together to have a perfect time, which again could be a reflection of my family. We only needed us 4 and we were fine. When I was in other situations and it wasn't, completely controlled and I wasn't in it all, that mattered. And that joy of like, we'll just do this next. No, just sometimes just like waiting in the lobby with people to go somewhere is just as fun as the going and the destination. 6, this is a hard one, never lie. Whether by omission or commission, lying degrades your virtue. Your internal sense of self-worth is keeping check, even if you aren't. Telling the truth is a superpower. It works for everything. Start by being radically honest today and your life will change. And you met me, we spoke about that mental health day. We sat in a circle and we had to start saying sort of why we were there. And the 2 guys before me sort of said, well, I just, life's been a bit stressful, but, I think we need to talk. The guy next to him said something similar. And I was like, well, yeah, I tried to end it all because I'm a worthless piece of shit. And I'd quite like to understand whether it's just me that feels like this or if someone else does. And that then opened up the rest of the circle that everyone, like Gav was next to me and he like really shared. And the circle changed immediately. The openness changed. And that came from...
You gave permission, didn't you? You gave permission for other people to share.
Yeah.
Right? And that's with blokes, we need that permission, right? Sometimes we just need that permission.
And that's 7 is keep promises to yourself. Your faith in your own word is vital. Build it up by starting with small promises. Say you'll get up on time. Say you'll ring your parents. Over time, you can promise yourself bigger and bigger things. I think this one's one I'm still struggling with because if I don't promise myself things, I don't have to do them. So, loophole there.
Yeah.
And then there's 2 more. 8 is most problems are easily fixed. 90% of issues can be solved by a good sleep, a glass of water, a gym session, a walk outdoors, or a chat with a friend. Often you'll find that low mood is accompanied by a certain physical, habitual, or environmental routine, like staying in bed, being solitary, and not eating and drinking well. These are not a coping mechanism, they are a worsening mechanism. Avoid them at all costs. And off the back of this email, I haven't stopped drinking, but I stopped isolating myself. I drink more water. I got out doing more walks. I text my brother to go for walks. And then 9, as you say, is the one that kind of rings true every day and that I use as a litmus test of whether I'm perceiving things the way they are or whether I'm just sort of wound up in myself. And that is you are the sky. Everything else is just the weather. Your anger, frustration, anxiety, and everything else is just a visitor in your mind. Sometimes it gets cloudy so you can't see the sun, but it is always there. And you can just breathe and let go of what is holding those clouds in place. Try and be angry for more than 5 minutes without constantly thinking about your anger. You can't. Realize that you are the architect of your own mood. And yeah, that email that I'd never opened on a day where I'd made my mind up I was going to do something pretty radical gave me a framework to try again. And I did. And we're still on that quest today.
Mate, thank you so much for sharing that. I guess a couple of things, like for people listening, like maybe some who have maybe been there in that place, felt that low. Like, why it's so important for me, I think, for people to come on, and I was so pleased that you agreed to come on and share your story, because it does little things like that. Maybe the word that always comes to my mind is hope, right? We just want to give people a little bit of hope, which maybe that newsletter gave you that little bit of hope. Listening to you, and as you described it when you shared it the other day, like there's elements that you sort of, and I think you acknowledged this, that maybe you didn't want to die, you wanted the pain to end, right? Which is my understanding from so many people I've had the fortunate experience to speak to. People just want that pain to end.
Well, it's the fear of the pain as well, right? I think as we get older, you know, we used to climb trees and jump in hedges as kids, and you know, and we don't have a fear of dying. We have a fear of being really horribly hurt for a really long time, right?
Yeah.
It's probably why the idea of hell work so well in religion is
Yeah,
because we hate that idea.
Yeah.
If we know it all stops, it's the idea of that torturous. And the worst part for me was I'm the one torturing myself, and I know I am. I've read a lot, I've tried lots of things, I've had therapy, and he just keeps being really bloody mean to me.
What since that time, what's changed for you? Like that inner voice, that critic. What do you do to quieten it now? Like, or is it still prominent?
I think the voice is very much still prominent. I think I've kind of touched on, judo is the art of using someone else's momentum against them and positioning yourself. My anger motivates me. My disappointment in myself makes me want to learn and be better. My fear of pain and suffering makes me go for walks into the gym. My constant nagging that I'm not living enough makes me get on a plane or go in the van and climb a mountain and see new things, and with that experience new people and ideas. And I'm very open to hear anyone's opinions, and I wasn't before because I was so wrapped up in myself and whether I was going to propagate my own success and my future. Everyone had to have a purpose for two strands, because I needed to demonstrate I could do something for them to make me feel worthwhile and for them to like me, but also I need to just put my time where it's going to be most profitable in many different ways. So I think one of the things I made a promise to myself is that if I'm going to keep going, Cheney 2.0 or Life 2.0, what do I need to promise myself? And one of the things was that you're doing, an example is like standing in the queue at the post office. I will not let myself get upset about something that mundane. I get to do that. And if I can change those, there's 80% of your life is just nothing. You're in a queue, you're in a car, you're going somewhere, you're asleep, you're doing a repetitive task at work, you're eating dinner. We don't inherently find joy in all these things all the time because they're just living. There are times you've got to sit in a doctor's surgery's waiting room. And if, in my mind, if it wasn't a good time, it was a bad time. Now, I think probably 10% of our lives are good and 10% is probably bad. And then everything in the middle is kind of life, right? We can't, some people bloody love queuing in a post office and some people hate it, but it doesn't change the fact that there's loads of stuff we have to do. We can't change it. So because I was looking at everything like a pessimist that was never, ever disappointed, you're never going to catch me off guard. Everything that went wrong in my life was because I wasn't ready for it. So I'm ready for everything to fail. I didn't trust anyone. I don't have any faith in anything. Every time I feel good, I make myself feel bad. So I'm ready. I'm hard, like Navy SEAL training. And I've shifted that now to allow the 80% of life to not be bad. Let it be maybe good. Maybe it will be funny to go into that post office queue now and watch the other people get upset. A bit of schadenfreude, right? That sort of other people's animosity is entertaining to me. Instead of worrying about why everyone's moody or why I'm there. I could be home or I could be doing this, or I've not made my millions. I could have been invented an app, right? While I'm queuing. Gah! And that disappointment in the minutiae of life, I've stopped that. I've stopped letting myself eat myself up about that. I'm not there yet. That's probably the biggest thing I've done. And that then evolved into, if an opportunity opens for me, go through the door. If it's not the space for you, you can always come back out. But if I'm going to stay where I am, definition of insanity and all that, doing the same thing and expecting a different result, that's what I've done. That's the U-turn. I mentioned earlier about changing my mindset on work and just wanting to work with people. I want to work with you. I want to help you. I want to see what you want to create. I want to see it come to fruition because I think it's worthwhile. And that matters to me. Now, we could both be bloody wrong, but that's okay, because I know that I believe in you, and that's worth my time. And all of my clients, I believe in them. And that pivot has helped massively. And that led me to then looking at what else can I change? And one of those was the ADHD diagnosis. And I, paid for that.
And I guess it's something that again, I guess back to using Sarah Willingham's thing around the polishing your bezel. It's back to finding whatever that is in your day, and that's practicing gratitude is a big thing, and some of the skills that we learn. Because when we just recognise some of the small things, that is life, right? That is the journey we're on. That's the essence of this beautiful thing that we've got, which is life, which is a beautiful thing. And we said, like, we shared the episode that come out this week with Gavin. You know what I mean? Like, maybe like the end of life or death is staring you right in the face, right? And you going, how beautiful it can be. And he said, like, finding them the beautiful things in just the smallest stuff, like just a hug or whatever them is. And if we can find those parts, that is what it maybe this is all about.
Those are
there's a shift.
Those are the tokens to put in the pot to look at later. I don't think that someone said this before. Like, no one on their deathbed goes, "I wish I'd worked more." Oh God, yeah. I wish I'd really stressed more about whether I sent that email or not. You don't. I mean, dude, I hold myself to a standard that I don't expect other people to. But that's my problem, and I think that's how we'd all be a little bit more empathetic to each other, and our communication would be better if we went, I expect this, but if I don't tell anyone, I can't be disappointed. And that's a huge part of it, life, of sort of saying, I'm happy now because of you, this.
I wonder, like, if you just unpick like that, because the word that you've used a lot, and which is one of the words when we talk about some of the research I've done and looking into it, when you talk about suicide, that the two words that come out the most in letters afterwards are worthless and useless, right? And you've mentioned it a few times around the feeling about yourself. I wonder for you, like that voice, which is maybe louder for you than other people, the inner voice maybe. What would it take to quieten that down? Like, because I'm just trying to go. I've only known you for a little while, but you've helped me, and you obviously clearly, because of the caring side of it, you want to help other people, and you're a kind person, and you are with friends and etc. That you'll go. It's that thing, isn't it? You say, would you talk to you wouldn't talk to a friend like that? Why do you talk to yourself like that? What would it be to reframe that in your head? Because you wouldn't. I wouldn't imagine you ever saying them things to me or the worthlessness stuff.
Yeah.
I guess what Chang said was that brilliant phrase, like, in the latest Boy the Mole, the Fox and the Horse book. He says, like, where we all have critics, don't be one of them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's enough out there. I think maybe I've got a weird skew on this, and it maybe fundamentally I don't feel like I'm worthwhile. And I think to try and change that, for it not to be there, takes away me, takes my ability. Humour matters to me. I was brought up on comedy, Monty Python, Derek and Clive, like satire, and being able to laugh at yourself is important. It's just that my inner critic is savage, man. It doesn't matter what I do. I don't think I'm going to ever be able to stop feeling insignificant or worthless, but I am going to enjoy as much as possible when I get affirmations that I'm not, and maybe over time the ratio of noise, good to bad, will change. But if it doesn't, I got to be happy here now. Otherwise it's a waste. I don't get another go at this. I don't know what I want from this. Like I say, because of that, I don't know. It's like interesting you say, what would it take? I mean, maybe I've got a saviour complex, right? And maybe I just need to pull my socks up, or maybe I'm just a big crybaby, or maybe I'm not as complicated as I think, and everyone feels like this, and I'm just vocalising it and getting all the attention, right? And maybe I'm narcissist, and I'm just obsessed with myself, so I create space and drama. There's so many ways that it could all be twisted and spun that it's almost not worth letting myself go too deep in it and just justify to myself every day that I'm trying, and that's all I want. The day I stop trying, then I need to be disappointed, but I think it's part of me. I don't think I can quiet this.
Oh, and maybe there's the acknowledgement of that, and that will help. But I think I don't know, a couple of things for me, like listening to you talk, and I'm only going on the short time we've known each other, right? Like what a kind, wonderful human being you are. Like just for me, like we met each other, we connected on social media, but met each other at that thing briefly and shared obviously some common struggles.
Yeah.
Over that, but like the times I've reached out and you have just gone and mate, I got you.
I live by that rule. But if someone asks, I'll be there.
But I guess I'm just trying to feed back, like you're saying, with just to try and allow it. It's difficult when we're accepting compliments. I'm not great at it and stuff, but just for it to land, I guess and that affirmation, whatever it is, for you to go, mate, what a fucking legend you are. I love you. Like, you're a fucking hero. Like, what you've done for me, how you're helping me. I know we're going to go on this exciting journey together of the things that we're going to do. We're going to have an impact. We're going to do all these amazing things. Like, and you've gone, I'm going to help you to do that. You're a legend.
Hearing it, though.
Huh?
I don't like hearing it, though.
But
don't give him compliments, man. Don't see that. It breaks me. It's just the way I'm wired, and I'm not on a quest to change it. I'm on a quest to optimize it. And if I can help other people feel like they're able to speak, I want to. Something about me I want to create is a space where people feel safe. Like I am the Doberman at the end of the bed. Like, you're safe. I've got you. And probably because that's all I really need to give myself, but I don't. So I do it as much as I can for everyone else. But I mean, Sarah makes me cry all the time because she'll just say something nice, and I'll be like, I wasn't ready for it. Normally I can see when she's going to do it, and I can just throw in a joke and rebuttal it and just push it back or use sarcasm.
What would it take? I guess just for me, I'm listening to it and I'm thinking, someone said it to me because I'm really bad at taking, but just that feeling of going, just not responding with a joke or a quick-witted thing, but just to let it land and just go and take it as a gift. If I'm a one of my kids, for example, a 10, come up to you and give you a little flower and go, there you go, Matt, there you go. Would you take it, throw it on the floor and go, yeah, thanks, and just throw it away? I'd hope not. Like, you take it as a gift and you go, okay, thank you. And maybe when someone, because I think because of how you are as an individual and the people around you that you are helping, there'll be more people that will say, like Sarah, like I just have, that will tell you how amazing you are. And then maybe that starts to land, and maybe your inner voice starts going, there's all these other people telling me all this nice stuff about what a great person I am. Maybe you should shut the fuck up. Because and this leans into like what come out. You've again helped me again when we done the men's group, right? I said, oh mate, can you come along? And yeah, come along, you again, you gave up your time, you come and help with that focus group. What come out of that, what I found fascinating, and maybe where the root of You All Right Mate is going, is that it's not just about me checking in on you and going, oh, you're all right, mate, how are you? But about me going, I love you. Or telling you how I feel, mate, you're an amazing, amazing human being. And this is how I'm so grateful to have you in my life. I'm so grateful that I met you. Something nice. Maybe that's the check-in. Maybe that's the You All Right, mate, overarching thing. There's all these different elements to it, because I don't know about you, but sometimes if you're feeling it as you did, as dark as it was for you and as it got for me, maybe, that actually someone checking in and asking if I'm all right, I didn't feel in a space to be able to then always do that. Like, I'm wondering what could have people, like you did get yourself out, that newsletter was something that sparked something that changed for you. But looking back, I'm just trying to, and how we can help others.
There's definitely two things there. Like I went on to, a year later after my multiple attempts at being stupid, I ran from my house in Crowborough to Eastbourne and recorded the whole thing on a GoPro on my chest. And I spoke to myself the whole way. And lots of things came out of that. Some of it was screaming and some of it was just waffle or whatever. But there's a bit at the end where I'm running down Eastbourne bypass and I'm physically broken, I'm mentally broken. I've been talking out loud like we are now about stuff that mattered, or even me just trying to work out, and I gave myself the space and I'm broken. And when I physically broke, I wondered if my spirit would break. And there's this horrible clip to watch and I'm crying at myself going, I want to keep going. I want to keep going. I want to keep going. And the more you hear my voice break, I want to keep, I'm shouting, but luckily the cars are going past and I watch that back. And the thing that sort of brings us to this point is, what can we do next? Is so much of how we feel and think and behave is repetition. It's muscle memory. We just do it. This is the way we do it. And it's breaking that cycle of, we just always feel like this. This is always, how can we change that? How can we find another narrative? If we're talking to a kid at 10, a guy in his early 20s, or a guy in their 50s that just doesn't feel like they've made it yet, of like, can't we change that repetitive cycle of like, oh, I'm going to just do this because of this and that. Good example, right? You were giving me compliments then, and I was saying how, what I'll do is I'll use comedy to rebuttal it. And you were like, if maybe you could just sit there and just take the flower. And immediately in my head, I made a joke, but I didn't say it out loud. And you were like, you wouldn't throw it on the floor. And in my head, I did the Ice Age, the last dandelion hump, right? And you're trying to tell me something nice, and my brain's gone, maybe something funny, Chene. Yeah, that'll work. Good job. But that's the thing that I've got to change, is receiving it, but actually being able to receive it. But my defensive behavior there was to give you comedy. I would give myself comedy for safety, but otherwise I don't want to keep breaking down and crying, because that's vulnerable and that doesn't get stuff done. Again, that's a rhetoric that's just been put out there. I think if we did all just lie down and cry all the time, nothing would get done. But it's, how do you change and acknowledge those repetitive behaviours? And then the second part of the "Are you all right, mate?" is from that focus group. I think the thing that was really apparent to me was, you are powerless when you're the receiver. And that's why it hurts. And that's why it makes me cry. I have no control over your love for me. I have no control over your respect, admiration, or appreciation for anything I've ever done. I can't control it. It's insurmountable. And sometimes, because of the way I perceive relationships or emotion, it becomes overwhelming for me when people give me the raw ends of the spectrum. Angry, sad, happy. Like that triangle. The closer we are to the perimeter, the more I don't know what to do with it, because I spend all the time just trying to balance it. So leaning into that more is that the power is the giver. Are you all right, mate? But being able to put that out into the world, to the person that matters to you, but knowing full well that they might not be all right, but they're not going to tell you now. So don't give up. You've put out what you that's where the power is. Yeah. That's the most powerful thing you can do ever, is to let someone know that you're thinking of them, but you want nothing in return. Yeah. And that's what you did to me a second ago. And went, just take these compliments, dickhead. And my brain was like, dandelion, right? I need to stop the comedy bit to allow it to come in, and then maybe be vulnerable for a second. But if I rehearse that, it will get better over time. We've got terrible muscle memory, not just men. I think men, women, everyone in between. We all have these learnt behaviors, but the stimulus doesn't change, but we can perceive things differently. It doesn't mean it's easy, and it doesn't mean we'll ever get there. But if you can take a compliment and you can give without wanting back, that's, for me, that's where, how many problems can we solve with that mindset?
You're so well. I genuinely, and Gavin again on his episode mentioned along them lines. He was exactly that. He was saying it's sending something with not wanting a response. I don't need a response from this. No. There you go. I'm just leaving that there, and if when you're ready to receive it, you receive it. Do you know what I mean? And that might be today. That might be I'll text you tomorrow and tell you I love you. I might be next Monday. I'll send it again. And at that time, at that point, that might be when you're ready to receive it. And if you,
the receiver has to know. Yeah. I can tell you some of the mistakes I've made in a lot of relationships, professionally and definitely personally, is I would take actions and think things and feel things in service of something later down the line, and that other person doesn't know I'm doing that. So they then go, well, don't bother about doing that. And you're like, don't bother about doing it. I'm doing it for you. And like, well, you didn't tell me you did it for me. How's that related to me? Well, I'll do this and I'll get that, and then I'll get that job, and then I'll make that money, and then I'll take you on holiday. And they're like, well, you didn't tell me any of that. And that's why the giving, letting people know, you could go and sweep someone's yard and not tell them, but you can't be disappointed that they never thank you. And I think we do that a lot. Of like, well, you know I'm always there for you. People said that to me loads when I was at rock bottom. Why didn't you call me? Well, because I think I'm worthless. Why would I want to waste your time talking to me when I feel like I'm a maggot? But it doesn't make sense. And you can't say that, because then you've just pushed their kind recepting thing back of like, oh, I'm always here. Cool. But you didn't say you were always there. So it didn't have the weight it does now after the event or after the moment has passed. So if we can just push out into the world, I care, but don't send anything back if you don't want to. Yeah.
That's a strong way. I love it. I think there was one other thing I'd wanted to touch on the run, because there's something that's come up. I think it was Chris Williamson shared, and talking about sitting in silence, sitting in our own emotion. Right? There's this thing that the answers we are looking for are in the silence we are avoiding. I'm keen to, like, with that. Did you tackle that on that run? Like, because you was on you, right? I guess in your own head, right? Was it 6 hours or something? You was running, like,
six hours.
What you was running for? Like, what? Do you a couple of things really? One, firstly, what come up for you through that period, like that, being in silence on your own? And I guess we'll answer that first. What? Yeah,
what came up? Well, it was constructed. First of all, that newsletter was Chris Williams' newsletter.
Oh, really?
I never opened it. I didn't want to give him more props. He's got enough YouTube views, but here we go. But it was one of his. It was like 9 realizations that he put in. I even replied to him, knowing full well he wouldn't reply. That came up on that run. I didn't even remember doing that. But whilst running, I remembered the newsletter. The run was constructed in 2 parts. The first part, I didn't know the route. I could see it on an Ordnance Survey map. I'd never run it. I'd never seen it. And I haven't gone anywhere near it. It was part of the Sussex Diamond Way or something. I didn't know if it was possible. The second part was get from Crowborough to Heathfield, get on a cuckoo trail. Pretty easy to respawn from there, straight down. But the first part was on purpose, new, novel. I wanted to see if I would give myself the space and respect to make mistakes. I'm going to respawn, and I'm going to make mistakes on this bit because I have no idea what it looks like. all I've got is a dotted line on an ordnance survey map. And the other promise I made was talk to myself the whole time about anything and everything. And at the start, it was hard to keep talking because I just wanted to concentrate on where I was going. And I think in the first hour, I made a mistake. I ran through this gate into a field. I looked across and I thought, this field is huge, like 3 football fields. And I looked at the map on my phone. I was like, it's over there. So I ran all the way around the outside of this film because there were loads of new lambs and all upset lambs. Got around to the corner. There was no gate. I looked back across to where I'd come and then down into that corner was another one. Oh, there's a gate there. I ran to this gate and the gate said, you can't go through, the bridge is out. I was like, God's sake. I looked around the other side. I was like, oh, in that field. So I ran back up the field, all the way back down to the field, back to the gate. And the gate might as well have said, I told you, dickhead, the bridge is out. You can't go through this gate. And I was like, where am I supposed to go? And I had to really be kind to myself. This is so early in the run. I was like, I'm never going to make it. This is, I'm failing. I'm failing so hard. Then I looked and the gate was right next to the one I came in by. But because I was not giving myself the space to observe, and I then did make the mistake. And it was this just constant, like, hyper analyzing, bit meta of like replicating life. And I was narrating all of this to myself and getting it out there. And this point came up about the newsletter. And then that I replied to Chris and said, this, I think, has changed my life. And I don't think you'll ever understand to what level. I printed these all out. They're all on my wall. And from tomorrow, I'm going to try harder. And I didn't get anything back. I didn't want anything back, right? I sent it because that was me just saying to the universe, thanks for that. A lot of discussion with myself about my dad and what he meant to me, and really sort of pulling apart what good things I'm taking from his legacy and what he's given me. There was a really weird bit that I've watched back a couple of times where my dad used to go, no regrets, Math, no regrets. And I had this whole conversation with myself for about 10 minutes about, actually, if you were the kind of guy that had no regrets, you'd probably be a bit of a dickhead. We've got to have regrets, haven't we? We've got to learn. We've got to admit that something probably would have been done a bit better another way, or that we made a mistake. If you live with no regrets, how are you going to grow? Because you'll just blame everyone else. I don't work because of this. So that was something. And I had this really interesting, like, 2-hour period where I sort of talked about my family history and the highs and lows and relationships. And, you know, after 3 hours, I started going back over what I'd said and seeing if I changed my mind. After 4 hours, I was making comments about just fundamental things that mattered to me. I think in that hour as well, I got deep into a man's position in the world and what being a man means and whether that's problematic and, you know, a bit philosophical, and do we need to be a protector, and does that look like strength through aggression, and what do I want to be as a person, and what do I want my tombstone, and will it even be related to whether I was a man or not? And lots of this, like, circular conversations with myself. And this is all interspersed with me trying to enjoy the environment. I saw some beautiful farms. You know, I found a random airstrip somewhere near Heathfield. I had one bit where I was like, this can't be a path. This is a waterfall. I'm running up a waterfall. But, you know, and then just appreciating the getting lost and the adventure and the excitement and making the mistakes and not judging, but judging and being horrible to myself. And and then it was designed in a way to break me to the point I wanted to see if I had spirit in me, I guess. Because I'd given up the year before, I'd broken. There was nothing in me. There was no point. I tried so hard for a year to change things. I wanted to prove to myself, I didn't know actually, I didn't want to prove to myself. I wanted to see if, when all else was stripped away, whether I did actually really want to live. Is there a fight left in this dog, or have I just filled myself with tasks and shiny things? And sad truth, that could have been the new relationship that I blossomed, and the new business relationships that had come out of it. It could have been I was just addicted to the gym. I mean, I'm not. I hate the gym, but we've got to go. I didn't know. And you asked earlier about masks. What does it mean? Who are you? Are you still wearing a mask now? Does it matter if you are? I honestly didn't know what would happen when I got to the limit. And I got to the limit. I'd run out of water. I'd run out of food. My fucking headphones had died. And I was left, and there's this bit running down Eastbourne Bypass. Just, I don't know where it came from, but I want to keep going. And that's all I said. I want to keep going. So I don't know what it is, but I want to keep going. So I will keep going. That's what came out of that. Was I want to keep going.
Well, not just on the run, but in everything. I think I'll speak for many that will say we're glad that you keeping going, mate. Hey,
Thank you.
very glad. Then we've got to get here and have this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. And I guess because the other part to that I was really interested just to, tell me a bit there, mate, but I'm just, I guess that thing again of what you put yourself through that and sitting, being alone in your thoughts and having and trying not to avoid the things that we're trying to avoid, like to just being can we encourage, can we give people skills and tools to be able to do that at younger age? When we get, do you think you have to go through life to be able to get to that, or is it a learned behaviour that we can make more acceptable for the next generation to be able to go, it's okay to sit in those emotions, it's okay to try and understand? And
Yeah, I think, I mean, you're a parent, I'm not, but you can't wrap your kids in cotton wool. They've got to fall and graze their knee. And I think we've all got to, I am the person I am because of the things that have happened, the mistakes I've made, as much as the wins. And you have to have wins to know what wins are for you. I think a lot of people feel jaded because they don't know what fills their cup or makes them happy or feels like they're achieving. What does fulfillment look like? It could be polishing your basil, or it could be striving for an Ironman, and everything in between. It could be just getting 5 books read this year. As long as you're happy with the outcome, then that's that. So I think kids have got to make mistakes, 100%. They've also got to learn that everyone's different, and I don't think you can teach that. I think they have to just meet someone that's different. I think we've got to have these jagged edges of personality rub up against each other and work out what works for you. Otherwise, you're going to mollycoddle everyone to be so sensitive that you're going to placate. That's my worry, is that people just go, oh, no, yeah, I'm so sorry. I take offence to why I love comedy, right? There's nothing you can't poke fun at, because if you don't, then you limit speech and openness, and people need to be open. But I think the tools come from emotional EQ, right? I think most boys have a very limited emotional vocabulary about what feelings are. And
do you think we can teach that?
I think you can teach that. That's what I think you can teach. I think, it took me a long time to understand that anxiety and excitement almost manifests itself exactly the same. Right? Sweaty palms, like clammy mouth, like butterflies in your tummy, ready to go, adrenaline. But it's just the perspective of whether you're enjoying it. People like going on stage and entertaining as stand-up comics. Other people, that's their worst fear. And that just shows the dynamic of emotional intelligence and what it means to you and why you feel that way. There's so many things that we learn growing up that we're just all happy, and then we're all sad, or we're all grumpy today, right? And you do that with your kids. I see people, everyone, grumpy. But is it grumpy, or you're actually hungry, or you're dissatisfied, or you're upset about something, secondary trauma? You've just seen someone else be bullied and you're sad about it. People are like, well, it wasn't you, cheer up. Right? Understanding this depth of emotion, it can be taught.
Yeah.
And it can be like, it's a bit like colours. What colour is that? Green. Is it olive green? Is it dark green? And the more we understand that spectrum,
Different shades.
different shades of everything. And it doesn't mean it's this one thing now, and it doesn't mean it's going to feel like that forever. And if I could give any advice to any kids in school, it would be that feel what you're feeling and then explore what other people are feeling. And don't measure yourself against other people. Be inquisitive, curiosity. And, you know, if you constantly do something that makes you feel bad, talk to someone else about it and see if there's something else that you haven't discovered yet. Maybe it's a different colour. Maybe it's not that shade of green. It's a different shade of green, but you just haven't come across it before. Right? We've travelled this earth and we found incredible animals and plants and stuff, but there's always a chance we'll go into the Amazon tomorrow and there'll be another species that we just haven't seen before. It doesn't mean that it's wrong or bad. It just means we've never come across it before. And I think there's too many people are afraid to not be able to label everything. This is, again, comes back to my thing about the ADHD and stuff like that. We don't have to label everything, but if it helps you label it, label it. You know, if we didn't label everything in the cupboard, dinner might taste a bit shit. So there is a purpose to giving these things presence and weight. But the attachment to it is the problem. You know?
I love that.
And I think a lot of us reflect our own insecurities. So, you know, how someone should behave or think or feel is probably a reflection of how we don't want to be received. So people that like, well, stop crying or toughen up or have a fucking heart for once, care. It normally comes from the opposite of what they're worried about internally. And again, it comes back to the communicate bit of creating space where people won't be judged. Put it out there without anything in return, and just try and be open to trying again. I want to keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah.
I want to keep going. I love that. Mate, it's been fascinating. I mean, look, we're coming towards the end. I guess a couple of things just to finish. I wonder, you said about advice to kids, but what, like, if someone listening, they've listened to your story, keep going, that message, like what advice do you give to someone maybe feeling shit? What do you wish someone had said to you then to help you get through?
It's something along the lines of love yourself so that you don't need others to love you and be content, but it just makes it that bit sweeter. That's the thing I don't do. I don't appreciate this opportunity sometimes, and I'm very critical, and that gets in the way. And in doing so, this is why I don't like being given compliments. Sarah loves me the way I should probably love myself, or something like that. And if you can't do it yourself, find someone and some people, find something, whether it's sport or a hobby or music, that allows you to, it's yours. Try and make yourself proud every day, and whatever that looks like, big or small.
I think one of the big things that come out for me with the 5 pillars was relationships, but one of the key elements to relationships is the one we've got to ourselves, right? That's got to be the biggest thing.
Yeah, it's probably the hardest one to tackle. Because, well, sometimes they say like the idea of being successful or to become successful can be so overwhelming for people that it just makes them feel insignificant. I think we have that internally, right? The way we can perceive ourselves is infinite. Like we could be or do anything within reason. I know there's statutes and limitations to what people can be, but there's no limitation to how you can feel, right?
Yeah.
You wake up and absolutely love things.
Yeah.
Well, we don't, and that's because of external factors as much as it is internal. But yeah, it's scary. Like, we could make ourselves feel and behave brilliantly, but we bloody don't, do we?
We don't. But yeah, you're right. You're right.
It's scary.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing to work on.
And that's the thing. It's the hardest thing is the work, and that's what I found this last year, doing the work on myself, the real work where you're really looking inward. Fucking hell.
But we're more malleable than marble,
Yeah.
right? But and yet people would rather chisel David than they would actually sort of go, "Oh, I made a mistake there." We're so afraid of making mistakes. I'm petrified of making mistakes. I beat myself up over it all the time, and that's what makes me hyperanalyze everything before I do it.
I guess it's getting to a point where we're able to accept, because it's good to make mistakes and accept it. But it all starts for me, right from that beginning part around like that self-love. Like, I think if there's anything, even with the little lunchbox letter, anything I'm giving to the kids, and I'm trying to get that out of all of the stuff I talk about, if there's one thing I'll probably go, like listening to you in the conversation we've had today, self-love has got to be the thing that we've got to, but given the tools to be able to do that, and I think that's where could be a starting point.
Yeah, name it and tame it.
Mate, closing tradition on this podcast, as you know, choose a card, any
card.
cards. You know the drill.
I know the drill. He looks suspicious.
Okay. What does a life well lived look like to you?
Oh. Well, Dad would say no regrets. But yeah, I guess it is knowing that you feel like you've lived, right? And that's different for everyone. For me, a life well lived would be, I would want my memory or legacy to be positive in the way that people are. He worked hard for me. He cared. He was loyal. He lived, loved, laughed. Terrible, but it is around that, and that's something. When I did my run, was like, what do I want on my epitaph? What is on the headstone? I want people to be like, he really, really tried. That would be great. I'd love that. I don't care if I fail, and that's hard to say. But yeah, if people say, oh, he went above and beyond, he was loyal and dogged, funny, I got to find the humour in things. Yeah, that would be the stuff that I'd want to be known for. That would be a life well lived, is nothing left in reserve. Like, I didn't expect to grow old. I think at school I was voted most unlikely to see 30. Not because of the depressive thing, more because of the hedonistic thing. Like, oh, he'll probably do something stupid and fall off of something, or explode holding something he shouldn't have done, or swimming with sharks but didn't know there were sharks. And yeah, but and as I'm getting older now, I'm like, oh, okay, like, we've got to plan for those things. So yeah, nothing left in reserve, all cards out on the table, and hopefully trust that people feel like they trusted me and I earned their trust.
Amazing, mate. Thank you so much. It's been an amazing conversation. I guess not just thank you for today, but for actually, I just feel really privileged and honoured to have met you last year properly and start a bit of a journey together.
Cheers, mate.
It's been, and I believe this is just the start of the journey. And
I think we can make a change. I'm a work in progress. I've dodged this podcast for episode after. I'm nothing special. Nothing tragic's really happened. I've just always lived with this voice in my head that.
Could I disagree with you there and say that you are special and you are and you've had an incredible story to share, and I'm grateful that you did that, and I think it will have an amazing impact and for people listening and help probably more than you realise. So for that, I'm grateful, and you're a legend, mate.
Cheers, bud. Love you.
I love you too. And as they say, He's a rep.
It's a wrap.